All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of In the Dugout. We're back from our extended break after Christmas, and then I decided to go off and get the flu and cold and everything at the same time. Put me down for a little while, but road to
I wouldn't have
recovery.
done
If I
that.
start, no, it wasn't a good idea. If I start coughing in the middle of talking, then I just expect Chad and Hitch to kind of take over for me and until I get this lung up, and then I'll be right back with you, fellas. So, but guys, how y'all doing today?
Doing good, man. Weather's kind of bad here.
Stop. I wish you would just stop.
40
I knew that you were going to lead with that.
It's
I knew that you were going to lead with that.
it's not raining, but it looks like it possibly could. It's about 45 degrees outside.
Yeah.
It may get up to 60 today. It's
What's it
You know,
doing
you
in
just
Biz?
sometimes you got to grind, right, guys?
Yeah,
Life's going to throw you lemons. You're going to have to learn how to make that lemonade. That's what we're going to do here in the Flowers household. Y'all doing okay?
Get down and keep hammering through it, man. Yeah, doing pretty good. It's I believe a balmy 19, 20 degrees here in Nashville.
Oh man, I didn't realize it was that bad there.
Yeah. Not so much a lot of snow like they said, but a shit ton of ice.
Buddy.
Oh, y'all got ice
We're getting
too.
we're getting a lot of snow in Oxford. I mean, I don't think it stopped snowing.
Dude, we got snow for about 30 minutes, about 30, 45 minutes ago, and that's all the snow we've got. It's been nothing but sleet since about 3 o'clock yesterday afternoon.
Sorry about leaning with the weather like that. I didn't realize it was that bad for you guys. My bad.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. We hadn't talked to you in a while, so I guess that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, y'all be safe out there.
Yeah, we're trying to just kind of hunkering down, watching some college basketball, and trying to keep up what's going on in the world of the Rebels.
I'm sure you're winning money watching that college basketball too. So.
Yes, as a matter of fact, I am, and all thanks to our friends over at Rhythm, of course. The college basketball. My college basketball model has really picked up steam. Really good with totals here over the last few weeks. That's where I've been making my money. So that's where I've been staying with overs in particular, and everybody loves an over. So just keep betting them, right? So yeah, Rhythm has really turned it around here the last few weeks for me with the absolute best handicapping app out there for anybody to use for any sport. NFL coming to an end. We got a couple playoff games. We're recording this on a Monday. And this super wild card weekend round, and then move on to divisional round next? Is that right?
Yep.
So NFL season coming to a close, but still plenty of college basketball to be bet on out there. So y'all go out, download the Rhythm app, and you can build your own models or have their AI build models for you, and you can track and see which ones end up working best for you and start winning some money. And once you win all that money, you turn around and give it all back to the Growth Collective. That way, Kiffin and Bianco and Beard and these guys can keep breaking in players, and we can keep bringing championships to the SIP. That's what it's all about.
Sure is, yeah. It's been a heck of a run, and it sounds like the transfer portal is not even done yet for Kiffin.
No. So it's been a while since we've talked to you. Since then, there's been not a whole lot of news to report. Some guy named Nick Saban retired at some point over the last week or so, I believe.
Where was he at?
What was y'all's initial thought when this happened?
I thought it was a fake Twitter account, and I didn't believe it. That was my initial thought.
Initial thought was health. Second thought was, what scandal is he running away from?
My initial thought was that Tim Robbins' Shawshank Redemption gif where he's outside with the rain falling. I'm just like, freedom.
Yeah, I know, man. And look, especially for me and you, because it's been nothing but over 2 decades of him kicking our ass either at LSU or going to our Dolphins and absolutely running them into the ground, and then going to Alabama and kicking our ass for 17 years on top of that too. So he's literally done nothing good for me or you, Chad. So it was a happy day in the Vandegrift household seeing him leave.
I was very happy because I've been thinking about it. Kalen DeBoer is the new coach at Alabama, and while I think he's a great coach, obviously he's won everywhere he's went. He took Washington to the national championship game. I'll never be as scared of another team than I was of Nick Saban at Alabama. So I can't see how he's going to reach the same heights that Nick Saban did. So just in that alone is a win for an Ole Miss fan. Right now, granted, Kirby Smart is building a problem in Georgia. He took one of their secondary coaches, and I'm sure that they're going to get some guys from Alabama from that. But man, it feels good knowing that I don't have to deal with Nick Saban at Alabama anymore.
Well, it really shook things up over there, didn't it? I mean, it felt like, which I guess is probably going to happen when a coach like that leaves, but it felt like everybody jumped into the transfer portal so my initial thought from that was, oh, Alabama's going to be down for the next couple of years. It was my initial thought. I don't know how true that is, but you were talking about initial thoughts. My initial thought was, oh, here we go. Let's jump on them. Let's clean up these transfer portal guys that they're losing.
Well, so they made a good point about how, things may change NIL-wise for Alabama, because I would imagine that some kids were willing to take discounts to go play for Nick Saban. Just, when you look at the pros that he's put out, right? I mean, I want to go play for him because I know that I'm going to be fast-tracked to the NFL by chance.
Yeah.
I don't know if Alabama doesn't have that luxury now until DeBoer gets, a resume under him, especially at Alabama. I thought it was an interesting point. Obviously, that may not be a factor at all, but it was at least an interesting thing to think that could be something that Alabama has to deal with now that Nick Saban's gone.
Let me ask you real quick, Chad. You made me think when you asked that, when you made that point, if you were a 5-star prospect or whatever, and you had the opportunity to go and play for the most money, the best team, or the best coach that would help you to get to the next level, right? Those three options. Which one are you choosing as a 18-year-old high school senior?
I mean, obviously, my current background would be a factor there, but if we're taking that out of it, I think the way I would look at it is, assuming that I'm going to get some money if I go to play for the.
You're just not getting the. You're not getting the.
Right.
The most.
It's. Do I want to be more happy in the short term or the long term? Right. So,
right, exactly.
Granted, as an 18-year-old is the key word there, because you're just thinking, I want all this money because I want to buy all this stuff and live my life. Having the infinite wisdom that I do now, I would take the top coach, right? I think that would be the best way, because I'd be more prepared.
That's the best answer, right? As an 18-year-old, though, I'm 100% confident in my ability to where I can get to the next level. I don't need Nick Saban, right? Yeah. I'm going to take the most money. I'm going to go play my 3 years that I have to play, and then I'm going to the next level. But I thought that was interesting. You said you said that about kids taking a discount. That was the word that kind of triggered that, taking a discount to come play for Nick Saban. I thought that was fun.
Yeah. Actually, I never even thought of it that way either until you had said that, Jed. That is a really good point. Obviously, the way this affects Ole Miss is the fact that at Alabama, Washington, and now with Washington hiring Jed Fish from Arizona, now Arizona, all three of those schools that triggered a 30-day transfer portal window for those rosters, right? And that's obviously what Ole Miss and this program has been built on the last few years. It's what Kiffin and Golding have been really successful at so far this offseason. And so now you're going to have more top-level players enter the portal. So it's just interesting to see maybe what Kiffin and these guys are going to be able to do with some of these really good players coming through the transfer portal from those programs.
At any point during the Alabama coaching search, did either of you think, if this scenario happens, and I'll let y'all fill in the blank with this scenario,
okay,
did you think Kiffin was, if that happens, I could see Kiffin leaving?
The only scenario for me is if they got way down on their list, if they just started getting turned down over and over. And look, it sounded like Dan Lanning turned them down. Sounded like Sarkisian and Norvell both turned them down, or at least weren't as receptive to talks as they probably assumed they would be, considering they're Alabama.
Right.
But no, I thought they had to get a good ways down the list to get to Lane Kiffin.
Well, what I was most fearful of is not Alabama necessarily. I was fearful if Norvell went to Alabama, because I could see Lane going to Florida State because of where it is, right? We know he likes to be on a boat. He likes fishing.
Yep.
And you're going to be able to get just as much talent as anybody in Tallahassee.
God, yeah.
Obviously, I have no sources that it would have happened, but that was the one I was most fearful of. If Saban were going to, if Kiffin were going to leave, I was more fearful of like a Florida State situation.
I don't know that you could pay me the most money in the whole world to go coach at Florida State. The NCAA just hates them so much.
Yeah, that's one thing you'd have to take into consideration with them is the uncertainty with their conference, where they're going to end up being. Now, look, I think they'll end up in the SEC or Big Ten, one of the two. They're obviously getting out of the ACC after what happened to them this past year. But I guess that would be one thing working against them. It was kind of one reason I was surprised that Norvell didn't end up at Alabama. I thought once his name came up as a legitimate candidate, I figured he'd be bolting out of there to get to Tuscaloosa.
I find it hard to believe that those guys, Lanning and Norvell, were seriously in the running. Here's why. I can't fathom Nick Saban, the king of process. And once again, this is just me thinking. I can't fathom
I know what you're thinking to say, and
I can't fathom him not having, Greg Byrne, AD at Alabama. I think he knew, and he already had a plan going on. Now, Jimmy Sexton, as we all know, agent to the stars in college football world, I just think that he was able to use that uncertainty at Alabama to get Dan Lanning. I assume he's the agent for Lanning. I know he's the agent for Norvell, getting them a raise, and Sarkisian. I think that it was mostly just him getting them raises and just give me a little time before you put the name out there for DeBoer. Because it always happens, right? Every single time a coach leaves, it's raise season. Everybody's getting a raise, and that's my tinfoil hat for the day.
Yeah, I'm halfway there with you, and not halfway there with you. I kind of agree with what you're saying, but where my thought process branched is when you were asking about first thoughts when this happened. And actually, if I'm being honest with you, my first thought was, wow, really? Like, that is sudden. And then you said Nick Saban is the kind of person who's a process guy. Yeah. And so it feels like even if he didn't announce it and maybe nobody knew, there were certain people in that organization who knew what was going to had to have, unless it was something sudden like health or something like that. But that was my first thought. Really was like, man, that seems kind of sudden. And then as you're saying, I'm sure he had some kind of process in, and I didn't tie together all that Sexton. All of these were his clients, and that's a very fun conspiracy theory there.
Yeah.
It doesn't raise anything, smart. He's doing his job. Before we get too far away from it, the guy from Arizona went where? To
Washington.
That creates a very interesting vacancy there at Arizona.
Yeah, it does.
So what's the deal with them? Are they?
Well, it does, but it does and it doesn't, right? Because it does if we don't have the transfer portal. Right. Because now they could be stripped for parts at this point, and the 30-day window triggers, and now people can go and pick. Because you're right, they had a heck of a they were a top 4 team in the Pac-12 this past season, and their quarterback was a freshman or a sophomore. He was young.
He's not draft eligible.
No, and so I think that. Yeah, that puts them in a precarious situation because now they're going to the Big 12, where I thought that they would have competed for a championship next year. But yeah, there's a lot of uncertainty now with that roster, considering people are going to be able to go and poach.
Yeah. That's kind of where I was getting to. It's interesting from a couple of standpoints, right? It's interesting from if all of the players stay, who's the coach that's going to take them into the Big Ten to make them competitive, and then also from an outside perspective, from everybody else looking in, it's like, hey. I'm going to go ahead and get some of these players that were kind of a surprise this year on this team that nobody was looking at. It'll be a fun one to track. Yeah.
Really important in today's college football and really any college athletic sport, whether it be basketball, baseball, anything. Once you lose a coach, you got to get on it pretty quick and get another guy in there. Try to retain your own roster. I think I'll start bolting. And kind of like y'all said, Arizona was it's kind of strange to think that team went into Starkville and lost this year, right? With the season they ended up having. I think they ended up finishing either in the top 10 or right outside of by the time the year ended. A lot of players.
I think they made a change. They made a quarterback change.
They did. Well, that guy got
after
hurt.
that. Yeah, after that state game or whatever.
Yeah, so definitely an interesting one to definitely monitor. 3 really good programs. Transfer portal open on all 3 of them, so we'll see what lane and the guys can get done there. See if we can poach a few more players to come on in.
So an
Other things that
interesting thing about that Washington hire and the transfer portal opening back up, right? Washington had a player from this area that agreed to or committed to them, and then he jumped back in the transfer portal. Any thoughts about where he might end up?
No clue myself.
Not Alabama, right? Not Alabama.
No.
What's the player we're talking about here?
Will Rogers.
Oh, yeah, no, he's
no. I wouldn't figure he would end up at Alabama. No. I saw pictures and videos of Will Rogers meeting with Jed Fish Sunday night when he arrived at Washington. So maybe he ends up being there. He said he just hopped in the portal to kind of protect himself.
Right. And Milroe's in the portal, right?
No, there was something that came out over the weekend, but it was a fake account.
Got it. Oh, Brooks got me probably.
Yeah, he got you again.
You got Ben Berryhill.
Yeah, that's right. All right, guys. So other things that have happened since we last talked, there was a pretty large defection from the Ole Miss football team shortly after Christmas, New Year, something like that. Right after the Peach Bowl, basically a few days after it. Quinshon Judkins moving on to Ohio State. That was somewhat of a surprise. We always knew it was an option. We actually talked about it on this show back during football season. Would you pay the big price tag to keep Quinshon in Oxford, considering the position he plays? I think we all ended up with the consensus that, if a decision had to be made, that you ended up moved on and go get you another running back, right? And that's
and I think that's why he made the decision. He probably listened to our opinion on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was,
absolutely.
I mean, I think he won't admit that, but I'm sure if you got him one-on-one, he would probably say, look, those guys on that Diz in the Dugout podcast, they really hit the nail on the head, and I'm out of here. So
he was
responsible with a little bit of truth and see what happens. So, but yeah, he's moving on. Now I don't think it was NIL related. I think there were frustrations with it, with negotiations, agreeing to a deal, coming back wanting more, and things happening throughout the season. It sounded like internally with him and other players on the roster. So, but look, make no mistake about it, it's a huge loss for Ole Miss. Quinshon Judkins, for my money, is the most talented running back in the country. I've heard people talk about, well, we're better off with Bentley. He had more yards per carry and this, that, and the other than Judkins did this past year. And if Bentley really was that much better than Quinshon Judkins, and Lane Kiffin should be fired with cause, because he gave Judkins 3 times the amount of carries than he did Bentley.
I think that's people just
Bentley was better.
That's us trying to make ourselves feel better about.
Yeah, exactly.
Leaving is
but we lost a hell of a running back. But again, kind of like we talked about back on that previous show, running backs are replaceable, especially in this Lane Kiffin offense. We go and get Logan Diggs from LSU to transfer in. We get Bentley back. You still have Rascano on roster. Didn't get a carry last year, but the staff seems to really like him. Now, Diggs is coming off a torn ACL. He's not going to be ready for the season. Sounds like he's going to miss anywhere between first 2 to 4 games before he's ready to come in. But that's fine. We have a real soft schedule to start things out here. Right now, you're just trying to get bodies in that room to make it up as a collective instead of doing a 1-for-1 for Quinshon, right, Chad?
Yeah, absolutely. And you're not going to replace the production that Quinshon was giving you with the 1-for-1, right? But you can find maybe two guys to be able to give you those types of numbers. And the other win that we're not really talking about is, hey, at least he didn't go to an SEC school. Right? We don't have to deal with them unless we make it to the playoff, or when we make it to the playoff. So that is, it sucks that he left, but it does sound like it was a chemistry move. Even whether or not you believe in chemistry, it definitely felt like Jackson Dart and some of the other guys have been on social media, kind of digging a little bit at Quinshon,
if you will.
Yeah. So it definitely feels like it was a positive move for the team as a whole, at least who they want in the locker room. And so if that's what they want, then hey, just go out and prove it on the field, right?
Yeah. So I think we're all rooting for the same thing here, though, right? We all want Ohio State and Oxford and have Ohio State in Oxford for that first round of the playoffs, right?
No, I want to buy. I want a top 4 seed. I don't want to have to play any more games than I have to.
Fine,
but if you're going to give me the choice, then yes, I'll take 5 through 7. I mean 5 through 8. Yes, I'll take a 5 through 8 seed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you said it was a surprise.
No, I want to play Liberty. I don't want to play Ohio State. I want Liberty to come to Oxford. I want the easiest road to get me to the championship. I'm sorry. I don't need to prove anything.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Bring those party animals from Liberty down here to Oxford. I mean, let's throw a blast.
And then Memphis and then Utah State. That's the path that we take. Yes. Crazy stuff going to happen next year.
Yeah. So
stunned silence on the cast. Yeah. Sorry about that.
Yeah. And so not only bringing in running backs to replace Quinshon Judkins' production, we brought in a big offensive lineman, Diego Pounds, out of North Carolina to bolster that offensive line. That's also going to help too. He's a big road grader up front for the interior offensive line. Really, really good player. I still think we need 1 or 2 more offensive linemen, but kind of like we talked about, you've got these 3 big programs that the transfer window just opened back up with. You've got another window in the spring. There's plenty of time to go out there and get a couple more linemen to bolster this offensive line and help these running backs, Bentley, Ruscano, and Diggs. And I still think you probably see us go out and get another one to help replace Quinshon as well. But I think we're off to a pretty good start considering how late we were in the process when Quinshon ended up transferring out. I think they've done a fairly good job we're replacing some of that production early on so far, so that was nice to see. Some other things going on. Go ahead.
It feels like it was a surprise to us. It feels like it wasn't a surprise internally. So they were prepared, it feels like, and kind of knew that this was coming or knew this was a possibility. And we're almost like, okay, go on, so we can move on and
move on,
to our net, So
start doing what we needed to do. So we do have a couple additions to the coaching staff. Chad, your all-time favorite high school athlete, Brian Brown, out of Corinth, Mississippi, is making his return to the Rebels. Former defensive coordinator at Appalachian State and Louisville. He obviously coached and played at Ole Miss before all that as well. Widely regarded as one of the better young defensive minds and recruiters in the game. A really good pull for Lane Kiffin and Pete Golding and the staff to get him to come on to be the co-DC and defensive backs coach.
Yeah, I was stunned because he was an up and comer, right? I think you said he was at Appalachian State, then Louisville, and now this past season at Cincinnati. I think he's been following Satterfield everywhere he's went. I can't imagine how that's going to help, with the transfer portal, especially later in this year after he's been able to get some roots down, be here for a few months. And then, it's only going to help the defense. I wonder how Golding feels about it, co-DC. I'm sure it's just he doesn't care. It's just a title. We can bring in some other guys.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a big name hire, right? I think that is going to be, when you're building a staff like that, it's starting to feel like, okay, we're building something more than just paying for good players. We're really creating a really good foundation that's going to carry us even beyond.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, not that it matters what we're talking about here, but you mentioned it's Chad's favorite high school athlete. He's known for football, right, Chad?
He is.
I don't remember. Is he my age or your age?
He was my age. Yeah. So we played him.
Right. So I'm a year older than him. So it would have been my senior year, right? We went to Corinth. And
no, this was your junior. This would have been my your first year. And
doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter
really. It doesn't matter. It's not even about football, right? I just want to explain how ridiculous an athlete this kid was. I don't know how big he is. He's not 6 foot tall, right? He's a small guy. We went to Corinth to play basketball one year, and on the opening tip, he got it and dunked it on our team. Like, the kid was unbelievable. He was so much fun to watch. And as he has risen through the ranks from leaving Ole Miss, and I mean, Cincinnati, I was on him a couple of times this year because of their defense. I mean, he's done a pretty good job. I'm excited to have him back too. I think it's a big hire.
Yeah, we played them twice that I can remember in high school. First time
I remember
was my
once.
Well, yeah. Well, we played them first my junior year. It was our homecoming, so we decided to pick Corinth to be our homecoming. They beat us 49-0. They returned the favor the following year, and we got to be their homecoming. Now you're probably thinking, okay, so you probably upset. No, we lost 78-14.
It was 14-0, right? Us.
I don't think we ever got 14.
No, you're thinking about
Ripley,
right?
Yeah, when Rashawn Pearson ran for I think 350 yards, another Ole Miss favorite ran for about 300 against us.
There's a lot of Ole Miss favorites that stomp mud holes
in
the North Pontotoc ass. Yeah,
there's a lot of so and so beat the shit out of North Pontotoc football stories. You know, they don't even have to be D1 athletes; they could be NAIA athletes, and you're probably right.
I have to stop talking about it. I didn't play, so I'm not going to pile on. Yeah, I'm not going to pile on. But Brian Brown was so much fun to watch as a high school athlete.
And we were terrible.
Best of luck to him here at Ole Miss, man. I'm glad he's back.
Yep. Yeah, really to have him back. And then it sounds like we have potentially filled our tight end coach vacancy with John David Baker. I haven't seen anything official yet, but Neil McCready came out, I think it was on Sunday, and it looks like we're going to end up hiring Joe Cox, the tight end coach from Alabama that was on Nick Saban's staff. Widely regarded as, again, a really, really good recruiter. That's one thing you see Lane Kiffin just surrounding himself with, or guys that can go out there and get dudes and get them to Oxford. And again, I haven't seen anything official on that yet, but the way that Neil wrote it out, it sounded like it was just a matter of time before it gets announced. So that'll be a name to at least keep an eye on to see if it's announced here in the coming days. But if it ends up being if it ends up coming true, and that is who Lane Kiffin ends up hiring for the tight end coach, that looks to be another really good get for Lane Kiffin and this staff.
Yeah, absolutely. Just keep piling them up. Bring in the guys that can bring players to campus. That's all that matters.
Yep.
That's what it's all about. So so that's kind of what we got from the football end. We'll shift gears now to the Ole Miss basketball team. Look, guys, you know, we had our first big test going to Knoxville. Didn't go our way, right? But it was a free shot, right? I mean, we ended up losing by 30-something points, but that loss is not going to hurt us in the least bit in the long run. I
was not disappointed, right? Like disappointed isn't the right word. I was disappointed we lost, but I did
played a pretty good first half.
It didn't make me feel bad about this team.
You weren't discouraged.
40 point.
Yeah.
That's the word. Thank you, Chad. That's the D word.
Yeah.
Discouraged. I wasn't discouraged after watching that game. Even though they beat the brakes off us the second half. Just took it to us. Yeah. But I said, we did some things that I was really encouraged by.
Yeah, and then they do what previous Ole Miss teams haven't done. They bounce back, right?
In a big way.
In a big way against Florida, get a big win. Put up over 100 points against Florida at the Pavilion, big win there. And then, they just take care of business against Vanderbilt, right? They're not a very good team, but it's a classic.
They never went away. Like they didn't go away the whole game. Late in the second half, it was still a 5 or 6 point game. And you said it a while ago, in previous years, it would have been nerve-wracking. I would have been sitting there going, "Oh, how are we going to blow this?" Right? And the last 5 minutes of the game or whatever, I was just like, "Oh, here's how we're fixing to pull away." And we did. Every time it got within 5 or 6 points, we would go on a 7-0 run and push it back out to 13, just like a good team's supposed to do. And this team, I never would have thought that these three people would be sitting here talking about how much we are enjoying watching the Rebel basketball team.
I know, right?
These three people specifically.
Yeah, you're 100% right there. And look, one of the big keys for these last two games, we ended up getting out rebounded pretty bad against Florida, but when the game was competitive before we built up that big lead, we were competitive on the boards. It was damn near even up to that point, and that allowed us to build a big lead on them before the rebounding category really got away from us. But by that time, it didn't matter, right? And then Vanderbilt, we imposed our will down low. Cisse hit, I know me and you kind of text back and forth a couple times. We're intentionally trying to get him involved down low, which is something we haven't seen from an Ole Miss big man in a really long time in Oxford. And he looks pretty good down there on the block.
Yeah, man, he's a unit. I mean, I was looking at him shooting free throws, and I thought, this guy is just a specimen, right? Like,
it's huge.
He's tall, obviously, but he's not rail thin, right? He's got some build to him. And when you look at his like biceps and stuff, and like how muscular he is, I was like, man, I bet he is a load down there to take care of. It's
big, broad shoulders, real wide.
Yeah, it has got to be tough trying to get position on someone like that. And going back to the rebounding, I think that a lot of times we might say we've got a 7-footer on the floor, let him crash the boards, and everybody else, release out maybe to get on a fast break. And the past couple of games, I've noticed the guards have been crashing the boards too, and that probably helps with that rebounding.
Mm-hmm. Next, this is going to be an interesting week. Looking at their schedule, got to go to Baton Rouge on Wednesday, and then the big one at Auburn on Saturday. Obviously, the first home. Go ahead.
Auburn's railroading folks right now. I mean, they are playing so good. Yeah. But look, that's a team that Ole Miss the last several years, as bad as we've been, we've actually had success against Auburn, as weird as it is.
In that building too.
Yeah.
Well, and that's a homecoming for Alan Flanagan, too, right? Like, right. I mean, I think he's probably going to have some. I hope he doesn't try to overdo it, which something I really like about him is he seems pretty even keeled. He doesn't get too up, he doesn't get too down, and so maybe going into that Auburn game, he's mentally prepared for it, but he's not going to try to overdo it by saying this is my old team. I need to go in here and put up 40, right? Just keep playing the way you've been playing.
Yeah, and LSU's played better than I think some have expected coming into this year. I think they're 2-1 in SEC play, so that's not going to be a gimme by any stretch. And look, anytime you go on the road in this conference, it's going to be an absolute dogfight to try to get that win. But if we can come out of this 1-1, then if I'm not mistaken, we get Arkansas
at home.
Yeah, at home.
I hate playing them.
They're not playing very good, but that is an incredibly talented team that can turn it on at any time. As we sit here on Monday, right before we hit the record button, I don't know if y'all even saw this or not, but the AP poll came out and the Rebels entered at number 22 in this week's AP poll. So getting back into the AP poll here at number 22 for the Rebels. Very well deserved 15-1, 2-1 start SEC play. Resumes really starting to take shape. That Florida win as of now is a quad 1 win. I expect Memphis to get back into quad 1 territory. And
UCF.
Yeah. Central Florida actually beat Kansas last week, which really helped us as well. That one being on the road, I expect that to get into a quad 1 category as well. Memphis and UCF both quad 2s at this point.
It looks like Auburn's got Vandy the night we play LSU. Is that Wednesday, Tuesday, or Wednesday night? Wednesday night. Yeah, I just looked at the schedule. I'm gonna watch some of that. I haven't watched Auburn play this year. I've just I've heard people talk on SEC Now or whatever about how well they've been playing, and so maybe seeing them against Vandy give us an idea of what we can expect.
The league as a whole has been really fun to watch. I watched that Georgia-Tennessee game the other day. That was a lot of fun, along with Texas A&M and Kentucky. Another really good game.
Florida, Kentucky earlier in the year was a great game.
Yeah,
Florida took Kentucky to the wire.
Yeah. This is
a fun league.
It started
and Alabama,
a really good league so far. Yeah, Alabama.
If Alabama shoots it, they will beat anybody in the country. Those guys.
You might as well bring up State.
Oh yeah, State beat Tennessee the other night.
State's been good too. That's what I'm about to say.
That's going to be a wild league. It really makes me appreciate what you said a second ago. It was almost like a throwaway thing. You said if we can just go 1-1 this week, and I thought initially as a fan, how could you think that you want to go 2-0, and then realistically, realistic Anthony came in, and then he said no. I mean, I think if you go 1-1 every week during your SEC play and mess around and go 2-0 1 week, man, that's a great, especially this season.
Yeah.
This is a gauntlet to get through this SEC schedule.
Yeah, you're talking about a league that the net rating as a whole is going to be so high by the end of the year that an 8-10, 9-9 SEC team might be able to make the tournament. I think a 9-9 team for sure will. I think you have a chance right there on the bubble at 8-10, and so we're sitting here 2-1 right now to start. So we're trying to find our way to call it 7 more league wins the rest of the year, and obviously you want as many as you can, but really good start. And I think a lot of it starts with Matthew Morrell, right? Chris Beard has always been able to get the most out of his best players, and he's come in year one, and Morrell has just taken his game to a completely different level. He's shooting the ball at an incredible rate right now. Not only three, but he's able to create his own shot as well, getting to the basket, losing defenders. He's playing really well right now, and our boy Hitch, we've been down on him for 2 years, and he has really come to life here with Mr. Brakefield.
Yeah, I said it. I don't know if I said it to you or if I said it to the group or what, but I will happily take back any bad thing I've said about Brakefield and his game the past 2 years. Like, now that I see him in a system that suits him well, man, that kid he does everything well, right? Like he's got confidence. He's playing defense on guys bigger than him, guys smaller than him. He's shooting an unbelievable percentage from 3-point. It's crazy. He's really coming to his own. And like you said, it starts with Morrell. But luckily we have these guys like Brakefield who can defend and score, Flanagan who can defend and score, Jamal Murray who can, I don't know if I've seen him miss a 3-point shot the past 4 games.
He does everything.
And then I haven't even talked about Brandon.
And then
Murray.
You got Brandon Murray too. Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah, I'm so excited about this team, and it's almost to the point where I'm nervous, right? Like, I'm too excited about the team, and that's scary. But it's fun. It's fun to watch, and I'm glad that we're getting to see this product on the floor, because the previous 4 years product, I don't know if we broke 100 with 3 games combined, last year. So
it's wild that this late in the season you've got a guy that's shooting 49% from the field. Morrell is just, he's filling it up, and basically every other shot's going in. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is a team that last year finished in around like 236 or something like that, shooting threes as a team. And I Bleav we're up a little over 40%, right around 40% this year, which was good for like 9th or 10th in the country. I mean, that jump has been incredible, and you see the results of it. With the team that hasn't rebounded particularly well, I do think we're getting better. It's one thing we've got to keep getting better at. Sharp, I think, is playing at a higher level.
He had 9 blocks the other night, right?
Yes, at the or tied the program record for blocks in a game. But he seems to be more aggressive going after rebounds too, though. He's not sitting there waiting for it to come to him anymore. He's using his body, his length to go attack the ball in the air. That's one thing I noticed against Vanderbilt the other day. That's just a nice sign to see. That's what you got to do. You got to go get the boards. You can't let them come to you.
And that's a good word that you use too, because that made me think about not late in the second quarter, maybe 6 or 7 minutes left in the second half. Sharp got his 4th foul. And I thought, oh, well, we got to get him out of there so that if we need him in the last couple of minutes or whatever. But no, Beard left him on the floor with 4 fouls, and he kept being aggressive. And I thought, oh, what a great luxury it is to be able to have your big man to be aggressive with 4 fouls, because you have another one, who can come in. But you also have guys like Brakefield who can get in the way of these bigger guys and make their shots difficult as well. So aggressive, I like that word aggressive, because we don't have to play back on our heels even when we're in foul trouble. A lot of times we can still be aggressive and go after those boards. I interrupted you, Chad. Sorry, what did you say?
No, I was just going to say, comparing this season to last year, somebody had brought up blocks. Last year, we had 123, I Bleav. We're at 107 right now for this year.
Oh, wow.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. We're almost 7 a game. That's what we're averaging this year.
Wow. Yeah. It's been an absolutely incredible turnaround. It's been a lot of fun to watch for the first time in 3-4 years, however long it's been. Ole Miss basketball is appointment viewing now for all Rebel fans. And that's a lot of fun. We're not sitting here. I know I said it probably on the last show and the one before that, but you got something that actually gets you to baseball season now.
Yes.
Instead of just wishing it was over with. You're locked in, and not only with Ole Miss, it may not work this way for y'all, it does for me, but it makes me more engaged with the entire league. It makes me more interested in watching the league as a whole.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Trying to see what's coming up and how you match up with different teams as the schedule goes along. So it's a lot of fun to actually really care about it again.
It is, and too, I know I'm the fan here of this, but just shout out and mention the women's team as well.
Yeah.
Are playing really well. Sawyer and I went and watched last Sunday. We went and watched LSU when they came to town. By the way, Angel Reese, for real good. She's great. But the entire game we were in it, and Marquise Davis for Ole Miss, she's legit too. She's just as good. She's as good of a guard as there is in the country for the women. But yeah, go out and support the women's team too, because I think last Sunday they set an attendance record. It was like 9,400, and it was, man, that place was rocking, and it was a lot of fun. And we've been to a couple of men's games. We haven't been to any the SEC games that a lot of people are there yet, and I'm excited to go. But it's a fun place. Go support both the teams. Coach Yo has done an incredible job with the women's team, just like Beard is doing with the men's team this year.
Yeah, and the Lady Rebs dropped a heartbreaker in Starkville on Sunday. But that's another good program down there in Starkville.
Mm-hmm.
State's got a good women's team. We went down there and battled, come up a little bit short, but Coach O and these ladies, they're gonna get back out on the court, and they're gonna keep fighting the rest of the year. I fully expect this to be a tournament team, just like most people, I would think. So, both programs I think will end up being tournament teams, and that's not something that I expected to say coming into this year. So huge props to Yo and Beard, and obviously Keith Carter. What an incredible job he's done since taking over. You think of all the things he's done as an athletic director, right? Bringing in Kiffin, and then getting Beard in here, getting Yo in here. He's done a heck of a job setting up Ole Miss athletics, giving these coaches a chance to succeed, and all the fans out there doing their part too, giving to the Grove Collective. Need to keep giving to the Grove Collective. It's the only way all of these programs are going to stay relevant year in and year out. So if you haven't yet, make sure to go to the Grove Collective. Give what you can when you can, and keep getting out and supporting these athletic programs, because right now is probably the most fun I've ever had being an Ole Miss fan, and I don't want to stop anytime soon. So before we get out of here, just wanted to mention one more time, like I did the last show, Swayze Crazies at Ole Miss is putting together a scouting guide for the upcoming baseball season. They will have scouting reports on every player or on the Ole Miss baseball team for this year, given current and future MLB type grades. That goes for transfers, incoming freshmen, current players on the roster from last year. It's a really in-depth guide that it's a good way to get to know this baseball team with a lot of new faces coming up on it. And it's a team that I expect to be really good. We're about a month away from first pitch now, when they travel to Hawaii for a 4-game set, which I imagine will be really fun. So it's a team that I think is going to do big things. One that I expect to host a regional, which we'll get into as the baseball season gets a little bit closer, and we'll start doing some baseball centric shows as well. Got player interviews coming up for y'all. I mentioned last time Trayson Hughes is a repeat guest, going to be coming back on. We're going to have Andrew Fisher, the third baseman from Duke that transferred in. And just the last few days, I've been talking to JT Quinn. He's going to come on. I fully expect him to be the ace of this staff. The freshman last year really showed some promising signs, and I expect him to take that big freshman to sophomore jump we see so many times with Bianco that y'all hear me talk about all the time. So I expect him to be the Friday night guy. So we'll talk to him and see how his off season's going and kind of his expectations personally and for this team. I imagine it's going to be the same as everybody else. So when you come play baseball at Ole Miss, your first expectation is to host a regional and hopefully get to host a super after that and then get to Omaha. That's what this baseball program is. It's one of the best in the country. And anything less than that is, quite frankly, just unacceptable as far as expectations go. So really excited to talk to those guys, though, and see what they've got coming up this year. Really excited to get baseball going as well. So, guys, y'all got anything else y'all want to add before we get out of here?
No, enjoyed it. Y'all stay safe out there.
All right, man.
You too, man. The weather's rough for you. Be careful, Chad. Be
Always
careful on the roads, buddy.
Always safe.
All right. I love y'all.
Bye, guys.
Hopefully that rain will hold off for you, Chad.
Thank you, buddy.
All right.
Talk to you later, guys.
Bye.